Take a few deep breaths. As always, fill your lungs completely. Empty your lungs completely. As you exhale, let go of physical tension. Let go of mental tension. As you remain aware of your breath, let your body grow calmer. Let your mind grow calmer. And call to mind someone that you'd like to help. Maybe there's someone you know who's going through some difficulty. Someone who's experienced a loss, some financial trouble, a health problem. Maybe just someone you know that has some problems in their own mind, some emotional difficulties. Or maybe there's a situation in the world that you're concerned about. You know that there's some people suffering. Just call this individual or this group of people to mind and just begin to wish them freedom from suffering. May they be free from stress, free from sorrow, and think about the kinds of suffering this person is experiencing. And just imagine that you could take that on yourself and that you could absorb their suffering into your heart. And you could send it back to them, transformed into the antidote to the difficulty. So maybe they're grieving. Send them peace. Maybe they experience anger. Send them freedom from animosity. And we all experience suffering of different kinds. So just imagine that you can take it in, whatever it is, and exchange their suffering for freedom. accepting their suffering, send them happiness. And if you like, you can imagine the suffering coming to you as dark smoke. And just think about breathing that in, letting it sink down into your heart. And then as you exhale, send them white light. So you might breathe in the dark smoke of anger and breathe out the white light of kindness. Now take this compassion that you've been cultivating and start to send compassion to yourself. And what does this mean? It means that you want to be free from suffering. And so start by recognizing the different kinds of dukkha, of stress and difficulties that you experience. You're born into a body that's subject to aging, that's subject to illness, that's not permanent. And there are times when you get things that you don't want. You're in situations you don't want to be in. There's times that you don't get things that you do want. So you can start exchanging your own suffering for freedom from suffering. So maybe you have some anger. Accept it. Breathe it in to your heart. And then return to yourself kindness, friendship. Maybe you have some anxiety. Accept that. Breathe it in. And send yourself calm. a lot of the time we don't really want to have compassion for ourselves. Some people seem to think we don't deserve it. Or maybe somehow this is self-serving. But really, we need to understand that we can change the way we greet and deal with suffering as it comes into our lives, into our bodies and minds. And just as we can change the way we feel toward ourselves with compassion, we can change the way we feel toward others with compassion. So think of a loved one, parent perhaps, mentor, teacher. And begin to wish for them the same freedom from suffering. May they be free from suffering. And notice the ways that they experience stress, difficulties, anger, clinging. And again, imagine that you can take those things into your own heart and send them comfort. Breathing in their difficulties, breathing out freedom. Don't get caught up right now in wondering whether they can be free from their trouble, or whether there's anything particular you can do to help them. Your task right now is simply to cultivate compassion. Think of a friend, someone you enjoy spending time with, maybe done you some favors. And like yourself, like your loved one, like the person you wanted to help, they experience all kinds of stresses, all kinds of difficulties. So just allow your awareness of those things to arise in your mind's eye. Breathe them in and return them comfort. And now think of a neutral person. This might be just an acquaintance, someone you see around but you don't really know very well. Or someone you know but you don't really like them, don't really dislike them. You may know very little about this individual, but you know that they have a body that, like yours, is subject to all kinds of difficulties. And you know that they have conflicts in their relationships. There are things that they want that they don't get. Things that they would rather not have that they do experience. And so bring them into this circle of compassion. Breathe their difficulties into your heart. And send them the antidote. Now think of someone who's difficult. Maybe there's somebody you're having conflict with at work, or a family member that there's always some stress when you're around them. Maybe a neighbor. And a lot of times when we think about these people, we start wishing them harm. But our job now is to cultivate compassion for everyone. Earlier I read a passage from Shantideva. He was talking about his tormentors. And looking at that, we realize that those tormentors create a lot of suffering for themselves. And if we want freedom from suffering for ourselves, we have to have compassion for them. Patience. Forgiveness. And it helps if we can recognize that the difficulties they're creating are a result of and often also a cause of their own stress, their own suffering, their own dukkha. So if they're angry, accept their anger. And send them kindness. If they're greedy, exchange their greed for non-attachment. Maybe they're deluded, ignorant. Offer them wisdom. And sometimes when we do this, and see our own suffering in this situation too. And so while you're wishing them freedom from suffering, be aware that you're letting go of some of your own suffering also. So may we be free from suffering. May we be free from animosity, free from stress. Notice as you do this your capacity for accepting the suffering of others. Notice your capacity for radiating kindness and comfort, friendship and joy. And now begin to expand your wish to relieve others of suffering, to include all beings. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering. May they be free from sorrows, free from stress. Take on that suffering. Breathe the darkness into your heart. Replace it with pure white light. Take on clinging in all its forms. The greed for money, for sensual pleasures, the idea that there's never any such thing as enough. Accept that that comes your way. Radiate contentment. Radiate the awareness that you have more than enough. Gratitude for all that you have. And recognize aversion in all its forms. Anger, restlessness, depression, hatred. Accept that. Accept that these things come your way. Take them into your heart and turn them into friendship, into equanimity, into serenity. When the bell rings to end the meditation, take a moment to wish one more time for all beings to be free from suffering. And then put your hands together in front of your chest in a gasho. And really take a moment this time to think about oneness of yourself and what we usually see as the other. Recognizing at this time that all are one.